In this video, I'm going to show you how to EQ like a pro. I ran a poll on my Twitter and everybody wanted to know, so I'm looking at some stems from a Ralphington track right now. I just want to quickly show you the EQs that Ableton ships with. There is the EQ3, this really old school analog model of EQ. It has 3 knobs, one for low frequencies, one for mids, and one for highs, and then crossovers so we can decide where the low, mids, and highs are. I don't use EQ3 that much because it tends to color the sound. Up next we have EQ8, which was a really big idea when Ableton shipped it. It's a graphical EQ that lets us look at the sound while we work on it. EQ8 has a ton of features, the ability to make bell curves and see them in real time. You can also make cuts by selecting the bands here. I don't like EQ8 so much because I prefer a third-party plugin called FabFilter Pro Q2. This thing, I just love it. The interface is great, it sounds great, and it's just a joy to use. Check it out on the drum track. If I hover my mouse over the bulk of the waveform, it turns purple and shows me what it looks like over time. This is a really great idea. This is a really great way to get a picture of a sound to decide what kind of edits it needs. One thing I'm noticing from just looking at this is we have a little bit of a dip around 2K, around here. We also have probably a little bit more sub-frequencies than we need for this basic punchy kick. So I'm going to make some edits really quick. First thing I'm going to do is cut off the lows, which is mostly what I do. I go down here to the bottom where it says low cut, and I'm going to select a steep cutoff. And I'm going to just bring this up to about the place where I see the fundamental frequency, the main big spike at the lowest point. The idea here is to just sort of wipe out the really, really low end information so there's room in that sub-frequency range for other instruments. For this track, it's going to be the bass. Now I also want to address that little dip around 2K. So I'm going to just give it a little boost. Double click to make a curve, and then there we go. Now we can take a look at our frequency again and see, oh, we've kind of filled in the gap here. And now we have a little bit less low end data. Let's take a look at the bass, and I'll show you why we needed to make that low cut. Again, I'm going to throw a Pro Q on it. So the bass is really living around 50, 60 hertz. And I'm not going to cut the low end of it at all. I'm going to let the bass have that area. By stripping out that low end of the kick, it gives the bass a little bit more space to breathe. This is going to allow it to sound louder in the final master. Now, I don't recommend low cutting everything. This is all about taste and the track. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to boost the high end of the bass so we get a little more click. Just click right here. There we go. And of course, we don't need to do anything else to this. We're just addressing what's there, moving on. Now, there's 2 different piano tracks in this track that I think need some attention. Let's take a look at this first one. Where is it? That's the drums. We were there already. Throw a FabFilter Pro Q on it, and wow, I see a lot of low-end information we don't need. So first things first, let's cut this stuff. Because the piano is more of an organic instrument, sometimes really, really sharp cuts, like 72 or 96 dB per octave, can make it sound a little unnatural. So I'm actually going to ease up a little bit on it and bring it up here. Now I see the fundamental frequency is like chilling way up here around 500, but there's a lot of data below that. Whether or not we need it is going to depend on the track. I'm going to try cutting it out, and if the sound feels choked or kind of like weak, then we'll add it back. I think that sounds fine. Bring it up a little more. Now it's kind of sounding like we're losing some of the... It's really thin, so if this was like a trance track, maybe it would work out, but because we're trying to keep this more like live sounding, I'm going to add some back. And if we wanted to give it a little bit more sparkle, I can just double click over here and give it a boost around 6K. I like boosting around 6K because 4K is kind of a piercing, loud, like think of somebody with that really piercing voice, their voice is hitting 4K. And then think about the sound of nails on a chalkboard. That's around 8K. So we want to avoid 4K and 8K while we're boosting unless we're really certain that we need more data there. But 6K is a really good place to boost because there's nothing really dangerous in that area. You can see how it gives a little more sparkle and life to the piano. Let's take a look at the other piano track now. This is a higher pitched track. I guess this would be the right hand. So we're able to cut even more of the low end off of it. And remember, the more we cut, the more room we're making for other instruments. This isn't about just removing frequencies for the sake of removing them. This is about removing them for the specific purpose of another instrument. We're trying to make as much room we can for the bass line in this song. Because we boosted 6K on the last piano, we probably don't want to boost that again on this track. It'll kind of double and may sound overwhelming. But if we want to add a little bit of a sparkle, we can sweep around and find a good frequency. Sweeping is a technique where you make a bell curve like this, and you just move it around, listening for something you either like or don't like. I don't like that. This is nice though. Another option I used to use when I was in the studio is we boost looking for really terrible stuff, and then we do the opposite of it. So like, I guess I'll do that. So let's boost to the crap I hated right here. It's like piercing and ouch, and then I'll just pull this gain knob down. And now it's gone. We'll tighten up the Q, which will make it a narrower band. And if that was a really piercing, terrible frequency, hey, we got rid of it. I can bypass a band by hitting this power button. It actually sounds better with the cut, so let's leave it. What else do we have to do here? Oh, the horns, right. Now, just for this last track, I'm going to get into something a little bit more advanced called mid-side. The mid channel, we can think of something that has the exact same data on the left and the right. So to us, the listener, it sounds like it's in the center of the track. When something has different data on the left and the right, it can sound really wide or spread out. Mid-side EQ lets us take this information and EQ it. So first things first, let me cut out that low end, because that's what we're doing in this video apparently. I want to give the meat of the horns, those low tenor saxes, a little more presence and sort of center stage. So I'm going to boost the mids of the mids. There's got to be a better way to say this stuff. So check it out, I'm going to make this boost. I'm going to use this headphone to listen to make sure I'm finding the right frequency. I really like that. Now if you look down at the bottom of FabFilter, there's a channel mode. I'm going to change it from left-right to mid-side. And what that did is it changed these buttons over here. Now I have mid and side. So I'm going to change this to a mid-band EQ. And now just the stuff that's in the center is going to be boosted. The stuff that's on the side won't be. The result is almost always not as much of a noticeable boost as if you were doing both channels, mid and side, but it allows us to have this more control over where in the stereo field our instruments lie. Because this is a group of a bunch of horns, I want the top end, the trumpets and stuff, to be wide, like they're all over the stage, and those tenors to be like center stage. So we have this mid boost, which makes them center, and I'm going to just make a side boost over here. Let's listen. Sweep it around. It's around 5.5K. So cool. Now our tenors are more centered, and our trumpets are more panned out, and we didn't have to do anything except for use EQ. Cool, huh? Thanks so much for watching this video. My name is Cutman. If you have any questions about music production or would like to see more videos like this on this channel, please let me know in a comment or send me a tweet at VideoGameDJ. You can support the channel by liking the video or clicking subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.